Well, it's been a great week and it's been a great qualifying match, but more about that later. Yes, Kenneth, is what's happening in the show.
Coming up, all the goals from the week's two sets of fixtures, including Lazio's first win of the season, Dennis Bergkamp's opening goal in Italy, and the amazing Juventus fight back against Sampdoria. James Richardson takes his weekly look at who's been making the headlines. The morning after the night before, as Paul Gascoigne sums up an amazing week for England. World Cup goals from some of South America's Serie A stars, including two from Parma's Faustino Asprilla as Colombia crush Argentina. We look at the front runners in Serie B, with Fiorentina already leading the queue for a quick return to the top flight. And as we preview tomorrow's big live game, we travel to Italy's deep south, to little Foggia, as they prepare for the visit of Juventus.
Well, there's been two sets of games in Italy this week, one on Sunday and one on Wednesday. There were plenty of goals and lots of action. First, though, we'll start with the Lazio and see how they got on.
Di Matteo. Goal. Di Matteo mops up. Oh, here's Vinta. Oh, that's desperately unlucky for Aron Vinta, the Dutchman. Did everything right, and it was an outstanding save in the end. Ekstrom. He really has a tremendous burst of speed. Busardi's had a difficult night trying to keep him quiet, and here's Ekstrom again. Marcagioni coming to the aid of his team. Ekstrom really has blossomed since his last spell in Italian football. Ekstrom again. He's caused the Lazio defence untold problems tonight. It's a fair ball to Scarbossa. He'd stolen away from Lusardi. Goal. Matteo has had a steady game in the number 4 shirt for Lazio. Casiraghi! He's come close to winning the game for Lazio. Teresi had to head the ball from underneath his crossbar, and Casiraghi looks fit to cry. Well, he did everything just about right. Beat the goalkeeper, but not the crossbar. Corner then to Lazio. Oh, Vinta! And that's two clear-cut opportunities Lazio have had now to win the game. Vinta was posted on the edge of the 6-yard box, and the Reggiana defending was woeful to say the least. Three days later, Lazio faced Parma, who were aiming to make it 3 wins out of 3 in the Olympic Stadium. Melli had the best early chance for the away side. Lazio, still without Paul Gascoigne and Signori, relied on Diego Fuser for their first goal of the new campaign, and the midfielder obliged after 28 minutes with that stunning finish. The Italian international was the first Lazio player to find the net last season. Fortunately, this time he found the right one. Many regard Parma as a good outside bet for the league title, with the talents of Zola added to an already gifted first-team squad who would put it past them capturing their first Scudetto. Here's Zola putting one past Marcagioni for the equaliser. The replay shows the number 10's delivery was sheer perfection. A moment of madness from Parma's captain, Lorenzo Minotti, dampened Parma's night when he quite clearly handled the ball 3 minutes into the second half. And the Lazio captain, Roberto Crevero, converted the penalty kick to restore Lazio's lead. Parma, and Melli in particular, continue to place Lazio's defence under pressure. Aron Vinta, arguably Lazio's outstanding overseas player from last season, continued to excel. Shortly before full-time, Parma believed they should have been awarded a penalty of their own. Watch how Di Mauro appears to strike Di Chiara with his elbow, but the penalty wasn't given. Then when Marcagioni kept out Melli's last-ditch effort, time had run out for a Parma comeback. Lazio secure their first win following 2 consecutive goalless draws.
Sì, beh, direi di sì, per buona parte della partita abbiamo sofferto un po' nel finale, però fino a quel punto ci siamo espressi bene, quindi direi che sono contento della prestazione.
Lazio e Parma saranno protagoniste in questo campionato?
Ma io me la auguro.
Shanimov has support here from Bergkamp to his right. Oh, that's a dangerous cross, and that's a bad miss by Schillaci. Those really should be meat and drink to a striker of his calibre. Schillaci, that's a lovely 1-2 with Bergkamp. Here's Schillaci. Hauled back by Caini, who is cautioned and in fact sent off. The referee interpreted that Schillaci was in a goal-scoring position when he was fouled by Caini. Schillaci, that's the goal Inter were looking for. They have the lead just before half-time. And Foggia pay twice for that mistake by Caini. They not only have lost a player, they've lost a goal as well. Now this is almost the exact position from where Inter took the lead from a free kick. Bresciani standing over the ball. Stroppa. Oh, that's a brilliant save by Zenga. May no longer be Italy's first choice goalkeeper, but he can still produce an outstanding stop when he has to. Biagio. Another appeal for a penalty, and this one is given. And Shalimov, the former Foggia player, is the man who gives away the spot kick for a foul on Nicoli. 1-1. No misses for Di Biagio. He scored in this fixture last year when Foggia went down by 3-1. He's handed the team a lifeline, and 10-man Foggia are back level with Inter.
L'unica cosa che mi sento da dire è che ho visto per 45 minuti una bella Inter e penso che abbiamo segnato su quella punizione lì, ma prima avevamo avuto già 2 o 3 occasioni. E dal 46esimo al 90esimo ho visto un'altra Inter, tutto lì.
Back in Milan on Wednesday, Inter faced promoted Cremonese, who were incidentally the last team to beat Inter at the San Siro. Here Dezzotti came within inches of a goal. But it was Inter who struck first, and Dennis Bergkamp claimed his first goal in Serie A. The Dutchman will need to produce his best form if he's to succeed in Italy. Bergkamp had an extraordinary goal record for Ajax last term. Cremonese wiped out Inter's lead 7 minutes into the second half. Festa inadvertently diverting Maspero's drive past Zenga. Festa, a multi-million-pound signing from Cagliari, was playing in place of the dropped Battistini. Rubin Sousa was back from World Cup duty with Uruguay. He came on midway through the second half. But it was Cremonese's Andrea Tentoni who came so close to snatching a late winner. Just when it seemed Inter were heading for their second consecutive 1-1 draw, Toto Schillaci scored Inter's winning goal 10 minutes from the end of the game. Inter's coach Osvaldo Bagnoli has been far from happy with his team's performances so far this season, but he can draw consolation from Schillaci's form. So 2-1 to Inter. However, the victory was marred by a serious injury to Nicola Berti. He may miss the rest of the season after tearing his cruciate ligament in his right knee. Who knows, maybe Inter will win the Scudetto. They still have a long, long way to go.
Ivanovic checking off Conte. Cavoni. Here Cettini. Now Rizzatelli. Great save though by Peruzzi. Fabulous stop. Here Cettini. Rizzatelli. Marco Perini had come out with him, of course. Now, here's a chance for Balbo. And Peruzzi again got his angles absolutely right. Trapattoni, one of the great tactical masters of the Italian game. They bundle it in. Balbo! Nino Baggio, forward by Torricelli. Roberto Baggio, that's much more like it from him. Much more urgency being shown. Here's Merla now, threading it on, and a goal, surely no, Vialli brought down. It has to be a penalty. And Roberto Baggio, the expert penalty taker, has the chance now to put his team level. He scored from 32 of his last 36 kicks. And he saved it. Merla going down, appeals for a penalty. Now, all the pressure is on Vialli this time. And he's missed it. Oh, that's amazing. This is Baggio with the free kick. All misunderstanding there at the back. Merla! And at last, the equaliser, which they have threatened for so long. Great return pass by Balbo. Carboni. Harassed, hustled by Conte. Play on, says the referee. Balbo! And it's there! Muzzi! Oh, Juve in such a mess at the back, and Muzzi capitalizes on it.
In Turin, Gianluca Vialli, who broke a bone in his left foot in Rome on Sunday, was busy signing autographs. Out on the pitch, Ruud Gullit was busy shooting Sampdoria ahead. So Juventus 1-0 down after 26 minutes, with one of the most influential players facing 2 months on the sidelines. Sampdoria, who were without David Platt, surrendered their lead just a minute later. Luca did well to deny Mola, but could do little to keep out Conte's follower. Conte's error in the Olympic Stadium 4 days earlier presented Roma with the opportunity to score their winning goal. So 1-1 at the interval. Juventus then raised their game and went ahead 1 minute after the restart. Roberto Baggio scoring his first goal of the season. Remember, Baggio had missed a penalty against Roma. It took him just 4 days to rediscover his goal touch. And Imola wrapped up the 2 points just after the hour mark. The German has now scored in each of the opening 3 games. Still, Juventus could have ended the match with a 4th goal. Roberto Baggio preferring to go it alone, much to Ravanelli's dismay. Juventus make up for their defeat at Roma. They now face an uncomfortable trip to Foggia.
Sono felice non per questo successo, per questa grande partita che abbiamo fatto oggi. Eravamo molto concentrati dopo la sconfitta di Roma e abbiamo visto una grande partita.
More goals shortly, but now James Richardson with his look behind the headlines.
Good morning. Bribery, corruption and wild kinky sex. Our main story this week, unfortunately, only contains the first 2 of those, but it's a great story nonetheless. Dark storm clouds are currently brewing up at Torino. You remember that things were pretty murky up there back in the days of their last president, Gian Mauro Borsano. Well, now, as the Gazzetta announces, Torino, its new inquiries. At the centre of attention this time, the extraordinary affair of Alessandro Palestro, the player who Torino managed to sell to Venezia for £300,000, despite the fact that he doesn't actually exist. Well, naturally, after the mysterious transfer, bright-eyed Venetian journalists started to wonder where the new player was, and the answer is, surprisingly enough, at school in Belgium. The real Alessandro Palestro isn't a football player at all, in fact. He's the student son of one of the Torino employees, whose name had been borrowed for a spot of creative accounting. Well, as investigators have burrowed deeper into the club's accounts, they've turned up all sorts of intriguing details. For example, Irregularities in the celebrated sale of Gianluigi Lentini to Milan, and intriguingly in the sale of Dino Baggio to Juve, which featured apparently the sizable bung of a hotel in Bardonecchia. Tax-free, of course. Ex-President Borsano is additionally accused of transferring money directly from the club to his own businesses, a la Maxwell. But the charges don't end with him. Also under investigation is the new president, Roberto Gaviani, accused of irregularities in the transfer of the club's ownership. Well, across Turin at Juventus, things aren't going too well either. Last Sunday, they lost to Roma in a match my throat is still recovering from, a defeat, in fact, which hinged, as you probably saw, around 2 penalty misses by Roberto Baggio and Gianluca Vialli. Vialli's was the sort of kick that at school we used to term a bish, and a pretty big one at that. It's his 3rd penalty miss in a row, but most disastrous of all. While taking it, he managed to fracture his left foot. He'll now be out of the Juventus squad for the next 2 to 3 months, which is appalling news for a club that's only just sold Gigi Casiraghi to Lazio and is now looking just a little bit overstretched. Well, Juve will be in our live game tomorrow at Foggia, the Foggia team that so far this season has already proved more than a match for both Lazio and Inter. How do they do it? What is their secret? I went down to Foggia this week to investigate, and you can see my report coming up at the end of the programme. Right now, though, it's time for a break, so we'll see you in a couple of minutes.
Udinese in the black and white had never beaten Cagliari away from home. In fact, Udinese failed to win away last season. Their goal was under constant threat early on, and Dele Valdez, who scored twice on his debut last week, almost made it 3 in 2 games. It hasn't been a happy start to the season for Cagliari. They sacked their coach after 1 week and gave away a penalty 5 minutes into injury time at the end of the first half. The Cagliari players thought Branca had handled the ball. Branca, once off Cagliari, handed his team the lead. Just as important was Desideri's intervention on his own goal line as Moriero sought Cagliari's equaliser. Cagliari's 2 major signings were involved in their next serious assault. Number 15 Allegri's shot was turned onto the upright by Dele Valdez. Cagliari's cause wasn't helped by Ferricano sending off his 2nd caution of the match. His first was for arguing over Udinese's penalty. Udinese made it 2-0 with 15 minutes to go. Cagliari will be disappointed with Fiori's save here. Udinese will be delighted by Branca and Statuto's quick thinking. It took a quick 1-2 between Allegri and Valdez to kickstart Cagliari, but this goal 8 minutes from full time failed to alter the outcome. Cagliari lose again, but maybe this time they'll keep their coach. Cremonese hadn't beaten Napoli at home in half a century. Just after half an hour they took the lead through leading goalscorer last season, Tentoni. Argentinian Di Zotti provided Tentoni with this chance to steal ahead of his marker. Cremonese, who won the Anglo-Italian Cup last season, should have made it 2-0. Tentoni saw this one save. Napoli's goal was under siege for long periods of the game. Maspero might have scored. Genderbaggi should have scored. Tentoni saved his best till last, running clear of Ferrara's weak challenge. Tentoni might have moved to a number of leading clubs in Serie A, or would he have been guaranteed regular first-team football in Milan or Rome? 2 defeats then for Napoli. Their coach Lippi could soon be getting a vote of confidence from the president. Unruly behaviour by Milan supporters at the end of last season resulted in the San Siro being closed for this home game against Genoa. This game was moved to Naples. Not too surprisingly, only 15,000 turned up to see Nappi miss this chance to give Genoa the lead. Albertini's free kick threatened to alter the scoreline. Laudrup's skillful run did. The Danish international was making his Serie A debut for Milan. Maldini's left-wing cross proved to be the undoing of Genoa's overworked defence. Massaro's header wasn't powerful, but lethally accurate. Massaro was standing in for the injured Simone. It's Massaro's 15th season as a professional. At the age of 32, this could be his last season with Milan. Massaro could find himself 4th in line to Van Basten, Simone and Papin for a striker's role this season. Genoa created a fair few chances themselves. Petrescu's cross pushed Milan's defence in full retreat. Nappi should have pushed the ball in from close range. Nappi should have been celebrating an equaliser. Instead, he looked like someone nursing a hangover. It's 2 wins out of 2 for Milan, both by 1-0 scorelines.
Nappi ha avuto il gol del pareggio sul piede.
Ma sì, al primo tempo, questa palla che mi è venuta lì che girava, aveva un effetto strano, l'ho cacciata a botta sicura, però sfortunatamente è andata fuori.
Il Milan?
Il Milan è sempre la solita squadra, però noi nel primo tempo abbiamo tenuto veramente fino al gol benissimo, abbiamo rischiato di andare in vantaggio e poi di pareggiare la partita. Questo non ci è riuscito e il Milan ha portato a termine la partita.
On the World Cup trail, Graham Taylor's England at last satisfied their critics with a vital victory over Poland on Wednesday. And as usual, Paul Gascoigne managed to hog many of the headlines.
Well, Lazio had an important game on Wednesday, but I had even more important against Poland. And needless to say, it went very, very well for both lots. Lazio got a great result, and so did England, with myself obviously getting on the score sheet. And there was a lot of pressure on me that game, and I had to prove a lot of people wrong. I've done it before, no doubt I'll do it again. I keep on saying that. And on Wednesday was one of the nights where I proved them all wrong again. It was great to see the boss gives me a chance to play back in centre midfield with Paul Ince, and I thought it worked very, very well, and I felt I didn't let anybody down. It was great to get a goal, which lifted obviously the team even more to go 2-0 up, and I think we felt a little bit more relaxed, and we started passing the ball about a lot better. Fantastic goal by Stuart Pearce. I think that was the goal of one of the goals for the night for me. Like, it was a great free kick, and it was a great return for Stewie as well. For me personally, you know, I proved everyone I am fit, and I am hopefully back to what I want to be, and that's near my best. It's just a shame I got booked. I missed the Holland game now. That's if selected. I miss it, and I'm really gutted, because that is probably the most important match that England will ever play for a long time, and I'm not going to be part of it, but hopefully I'll be there in the dressing room getting the lads on. You know, the build-up towards the game has been different from a few of the other games, where I think it was just like the lads were totally relaxed. Graham Taylor done the best he could to relax us, and the lads were in great spirit. We knew what we had to do. He knew what we had to do. He'd done his part, like he said, you know, and now it was up to us to do our part on the pitch, and we did that with great success. I must compliment the crowd, who were fantastic on the night, and there wasn't been a spare seat in the house, and that does honestly lift the lads. And when you were behind us, you know, even though everybody else is against us, the fans were there behind us, and that is great, and it just shows that they are behind us, so it doesn't matter what you see or read. The fans were fantastic on the night, and that was great to see. It's fantastic. Graham Taylor, I was pleased for him that we got the result. You know, I felt myself, especially for 2 games, just 2 games, man, I took a lot of stick for that we had let him down, and let's hope that, you know, we put part of it right last night. Well, my first game for Lazio didn't go too well, and I was substituted, but I missed the last 2 games, and we have Cremonese on Sunday, which is a team that's just been promoted. They got beat on Wednesday, but no doubt they'll be looking for a result against us. I only hope that the lads are on song, and obviously with myself in the team. Diego Fose was injured and had to be taken off, so we'll have to see how he comes on, but hopefully I'm looking for a game myself, and a good game to carry on for what happened on Wednesday. Well, that's it from me this week. It's been a fantastic week. Now I'm looking forward to getting back to the football in Italy.
Well, Paul Gascoigne, not the only Serie A star to make an impact in the World Cup this week. In Ecuador, Inter's Ruben Sosa gave Uruguay a World Cup lifeline on 9 minutes. They spent the next 81 minutes grimly hanging on, much to the anger of the home crowd. In Buenos Aires, one of the World Cup stories. Argentina fell behind to Colombia, courtesy of Freddie Rincon. A minute into the second half, Parma's Faustino Asprilla made it 2. Fiorentina's Gabriel Batistuta was frustrated by some outstanding saves by the Colombian goalkeeper Oscar Cordoba. But Colombia extended their lead when Asprilla set up Rincon for number 3. The Parma striker scored the goal of the game to make it 4. Before Adolfo Valencia rounded off the massacre with 6 minutes left. Argentina now face Australia in a playoff for a place in the World Cup finals, while the commentator faces a long lay down in a darkened room. An unhappy day for Gabriel Batistuta then, but things are looking up for his club Fiorentina.
Question: what's a German international doing playing second division football in Italy? Answer: scoring goals. Stefan Effenberg's header gave Fiorentina the lead after half an hour. Petracchi's 9-iron of a chip was almost pin high here for Venezia. Orlando, Effenberg, Iachini and Banchelli combined for goal number 2, which came 3 minutes into the second half. 4 minutes later, and Effenberg, who seems to have lost none of his competitive spirit, made it 3. Fiorentina weren't finished yet. In 2 minutes from the end, this defensive lapse by Venezia allowed Robbiati to round off the win. 4-0 to Fiorentina, and it's rumoured next week Gabriel Batistuta will be back from South America. Padova in white could well push Fiorentina all the way in the race for the Serie B title come next May. Galdarese, the former Italian international, gave them the lead just before half-time against Pisa. Some sloppy defending by Padova and some sloppy finishing by Rivaris ensured that Padova had a 1-0 half-time lead. Pisa's defending was nothing to write home about in the final minute, but by then they were chasing an equaliser. Galdarese's cross was virtually walked in by Simonetta. 2-0 the final score, 2 wins out of 2 for Padova, the same as Fiorentina. The teams meet in a month's time in Padova.
So Padova join Fiorentina and Cosenza, who play each other tomorrow, at the top of Serie B. All have a 100% record. But now it's back to Serie A, and time to catch up with the rest of last weekend's goals.
Parma in white were awarded a penalty on half an hour in their home game with Lecce. Parma's major summer signing, Gianfranco Zola, was a man foul. Zola, newly installed as Parma's penalty taker, made it 1-0. Parma thought they'd increase the lead shortly afterwards. Minotti's shot was spilled into Melli's path, but Melli was judged offside. Benarivo's galloping run might have brought Parma's second goal of the match, but Zola's volley wasn't as accurate as his penalty. Lecce haven't scored on their last 3 visits to Parma. This was Gerson trying to alter that statistic. Something appeared to be amiss with Lecce's offside trap. Melli and Grun should have fashioned a goal between them, but Melli's shot was wide. Zola continued his personal quest to find a second goal. This time he was stopped by Gatta in Lecce's goal. It's 2 wins out of 2 for Parma, who are unbeaten for almost a year at home. Piacenza in red almost scored their first Serie A goal against Sampdoria through Maccoppi. In fact, it was Sampdoria who took the lead just before half-time when Hullet helped down Lombardo's cross. And Jugovic, who scored 9 goals last season, scored his first this. Sampdoria, without David Platt, are being strongly tipped to push hard for the championship, and it was no surprise to find Hullet making the goal. If Piacenza's players were taking bets on who'd score their first Serie A goal, few would have staked a bet on Sampdoria's Bucchioni, the Serie A novice himself. Injury time at the end of the first half. Sampdoria awarded a penalty when Piacenza's 18-yard box resembled a wrestling ring. Take your pick which Sampdoria player was fouled, Mancini or Hullit, it mattered little. What did matter was Mancini's penalty, which gave Sampdoria a 2-0 lead. Mancini, who hit 15 Serie A goals last season, is off the mark for the new term. De Vitis troubled Pagliuca late on, but by then Sampdoria were well on their way to win number 2 of the season. Final score: Sampdoria 2, Piacenza 1. The last 7 meetings between these teams in Turin had ended level, so no one expected a winner or Rambaudi to make this interception for Atalanta as Annoni clears off his goal line. Midway through the first half, Torino scored. Carbone's free kick found Venturin, who rarely gets himself on the score sheet. A similar move brought a similar result for Torino. This time Fortunato is in the right place at the right time to make it 2-0. Carbone, who scored an outstanding goal against Piacenza last week, was making a bold effort to make it 3-0 and try to keep Aguilera and Francescoli out of the first team. 13 minutes from full time, Atalanta made a belated effort to rescue the game. Gance's overhead kick brought him his 3rd goal of the season. Annoni, who'd begun the match by clearing off his goal line, ended the game in similar fashion, this time denying Peroni. 2-1 to Torino. It's their first win against Atalanta in 14 seasons. The visit of Serie A champions Milan drew a capacity crowd at Piacenza's Galliana Stadium. Indeed, it was the provincial club which created the best of the early chances. De Vitis and Iacobelli both had splendid opportunities to open the scoring. De Vitis, runner-up in Serie B's goal-scoring charts in the last 2 seasons, squandered another chance just before half-time. But in the second period, it took an exceptional stop from Taibbi to deny Maldini. Milan's Marco Simone had the last effort of the contest, but the Piacenza goalkeeper did enough to secure a point. It's Piacenza's first ever point in Serie A. Despite Napoli's disappointing start, thousands of fans turned up for their match against Torino. Perhaps their optimism wasn't matched by Napoli's coach, Marcello Lippi, whose side was spared the loss of an early goal by his goalkeeper. In contrast, Torino arrived in Naples with 2 wins out of 2. If Fortunato's shooting was more accurate, he could have set Torino on their way to a 3rd successive victory. Instead, only the expertise of ex-Napoli goalkeeper Giovanni Galli kept out the home side following Busso's explosive drive. Torino began to buckle in the second half and Sordo was sent off after he'd body-checked Di Canio. Di Canio recovered sufficiently, and his powerful shot from long range brought the best out of Galli in Torino's goal. Torino's 10 men hung on and survived Ferrara's attempt on goal as the match ended scoreless. Napoli earned their first point of the new campaign, but needed a win to kickstart their season. In Bergamo, Maurizio Ganz needed just 8 minutes to give Atalanta the lead against Reggiana. That's his 4th goal in 3 games. Ganz, once rejected by Sampdoria, scored 14 goals in his first season in Bergamo. The absence of Johnny Ekstrom allowed Paccioni a first-team outing. Goalkeeper Ferron helped tip the balance in Atalanta's favour. Atalanta went 2-0 up early in the second half. Scapolo provided the telling blow following Rambaudi's knockdown. Scapolo was brought to Atalanta by the new coach Francesco Guidolin. His faith in the young forward is already being repaid. 2 minutes later, Torrisi's back pass gave Ganz the opportunity to score his 2nd goal of the game. Ganz held his head in his hands, was presented with a chance to redeem himself via the penalty spot. Torrisi was once again the terrorised defender. Ganz stepped up, only to see Taffarel make an outstanding save. After Reggiana's goal in the 87th minute, Atalanta played out an anxious end to the game, but managed to hold on for the 2 points. Reggiana are still searching for their first ever victory in Serie A.
Il capocannoniere della Serie A questa sera un gol, un palo, un rigore, mancato tutte le emozioni.
Sì, speravo di fare un gol in più, è mancato uno facile a porta libera e poi purtroppo ho sbagliato il rigore. Era importante vincere e sarà per un'altra volta.
Domenica c'è il Milan, si può segnare anche a San Siro.
Ma a San Siro è sempre difficile segnare, speriamo di fare una buona partita e poi vedremo.
Genoa were celebrating their 100th birthday against Cagliari on Wednesday night. The fans turned out in force for the festive occasion, and they were very nearly given greater cause to celebrate when Mojita came close to scoring. Cagliari replied instantly. Deli Valdez ran clear of Signorini, but the Panamanian ultimately failed to find the right side of the net. Valdez was in the thick of things once again midway through the first half. Lorenzini's trip and the Sardinians a penalty. Their expensive signing from Pescara, Allegri, scored emphatically. That's 2 in 2 games for him. Genoa could have equalised almost immediately through Marco Nappi. The striker hit a purple patch in the last 15 minutes of the half. Here he is again going close. Before he made it third time lucky, 3 minutes before the half-time whistle. Cavallo and Mojita combined to set up Nappi's goal. Mojita in for Scoravi, who was on international duty, had a memorable Serie A debut. His cross had picked out Nappi to make it 1-1. Genoa's captain, Signorini, had the best effort of the second half, but there were no more goals. Not a perfect night for Genoa. I'm sure the club's fans wouldn't have minded too much, though. Lecce gave a Serie A debut to Luis Carlos Toffoli, or Gaucho as he's nicknamed, against regional rivals Foggia. The Brazilian promised the fans a goal, and he was more than happy to take the penalty after Di Bari had handled the ball. However, he failed to fulfil his promise on 10 minutes with the most casual of spot kicks. Foggia rode their luck, and Bresciani should have at least hit the target there. That was before the Foggia forward made amends after 21 minutes. It was Stropper's defence-splitting pass which opened the path to goal for Bresciani, who finished impeccably. Capellini then went close for Foggia. Then Lecce, who have yet to score in Serie A this season, went close through Cherry Mikola. Lecce pressed hard for an equaliser, although Toffoli didn't find goal scoring any easier from 6 yards. And in the second half, Lecce's task was made all the more difficult when Cherry Mikola was red-carded for his second cautionable offence. Foggia killed off Lecce 2 minutes into injury time. Ryan Roy stylishly converting after Gatta had denied Stropper. It's Roy's first goal of the new season. Foggia are still unbeaten. I wonder whether that statistic will change against Juventus on Sunday. Abel Balbo was greeted with a warm reception on his return to Udine following his transfer to Roma. Here's Branca of Udinese, Balbo's striking partner last year, whose finish failed to match his fine approach play. Only Fabrizio Lorieri stood between Branca and a goal. Udinese did open the scoring in the first half, only for the referee to spot a handball, which was clearly non-existent, and the goal was ruled out. The replay shows Desideri's free kick sailed into the net untouched. Abel Balbo almost capped his emotional return to Udine with a goal for his new club. While at the other end, his former teammates were given cause to complain about the refereeing again. This time, the official failed to spot the use of a hand by Piacentini. Fixture ended goalless, both clubs now on 3 points.
And this is how the Serie A table looks after 3 matches, with the big 3, Milan, Inter and Torino, leading the way. Juventus and Foggia are in the bunch just below, and they feature in our big live game tomorrow, which comes from the Pino Zaccaria Stadium. James Richardson reports on the Foggia story.
Hello there, I'm down south, down in the sultry south, where the temperatures can only really be described as equatorial. I'm here in the hometown of one of Serie A's most mystifying squads, Foggia. For the last 3 seasons, Foggia have put a lot of their richer rivals to shame. The bane of Milan they've been, the terror of Trapattoni. Already this season they've stopped Lazio and Inter, and now they've got mighty Juventus in their sights for tomorrow. A good time then to find out more about this team of virtual nobodies who somehow managed to be one of football's most consistent giant killers. Under the watchful eye of their glacial coach Zdenko Zeman, the Foggia team that last year humiliated Juventus 2-1 is hard at work at their Zaccaria Stadium, trying to pull the same trick off again.
Noi ci rendiamo conto che la Juventus è una grossa squadra, che è una delle squadre che punta allo scudetto, ma noi dobbiamo cercare di fare il nostro. Io penso che se giochiamo noi al meglio possiamo mettere in difficoltà la Juventus.
As fine an argument for more caffeine in coffee as you're ever likely to see, Zeman is one of Serie A's most revered coaches. A Czechoslovak whose playing experience is strictly amateur, he fled to Italy in 1968, aged only 19, to avoid conscription. Here relatives awaited, like his uncle Vic Palic, a player and Scudetto-winning coach up at Juventus. Zdenko, however, chose to settle down in Sicily and continue his earlier studies of sport.
Ho fatto da quando sono arrivato tutti i sport, pallavolo, pallamano e calcio. Ho cominciato con le squadre dei dilettanti, ho fatto 9 anni poi nella società di Palermo che faceva campionato di Serie B e poi mi hanno dato la fiducia anche le altre squadre.
Zeman's current stay at Foggia began in 1989 in Serie B. After dominating that division, the team arrived in Serie A in 1991. Foggia dazzled the top division, scoring goals as fast as they took them, which was pretty fast indeed. The newly promoted club finished 9th that year, but it was to be the end for that lineup. That summer, the club sold its budding stars by Arno Signori and others like Rambaudi and Shalimov. The team was decimated, and worst of all, very little of the £25 million earned went on new players. The season started disastrously, and a year ago, relegation looked a strong probability.
L'anno scorso noi a questo punto eravamo a 0 punti, davanti a noi la squadra penultima era Cagliari, poi alla fine di campionato Cagliari è andato in Coppa UEFA e noi ci siamo salvati senza difficoltà.
Which can't have been easy after the sale of most of Foggia's best players. What counts with Zeman, though, is the collective. Players may change, but his schemes for playing remain unaltered. Some may call it robot sport, but no less a figure than Arrigo Sacchi described Foggia as the university of football. Sacchi's among many coaches who now make frequent trips south to seek the secret of Foggia's success.
Per prima cosa perché è un grosso allenatore, un grande allenatore che riesce a fare la squadra, soprattutto farla giocare bene e anche ottenere risultati.
Ma io credo che anche i giocatori siano importanti, oltre all'allenatore che è eccezionale, non lo scopro certo io, gli allenamenti incredibili, tattica, tecnica e anche molta atletica, ma soprattutto un grande affiatamento anche fra noi giocatori.
The rumours in Serie A of some kind of Stalag Zeman down at Foggia are a little exaggerated. However, it is true to say that any player that comes here is going to be tested to the maximum. Today, for example, it's been 85 degrees in Foggia, and yet, like most days, this is the squad's second training session, and it's going to last a good 2 hours. Today, apparently, was only light training, though. A session often includes the likes of a half-hour jumping up and down the stands of the stadium. We asked the Foggia players then if they've ever had to work this hard anywhere else.
No, this is. I thought that that Ajax was the club where they worked the hardest, but it's over here.
No, sinceramente no, purtroppo sono 5 anni, non purtroppo, ma che sono con Zeman, quindi ci sono abituato.
Zeman's a hard man in training and pretty tough stuff in an interview too. However, according to the players, he's a bundle of laughs away from his work. In the town, he's certainly a folk hero.
Zeman che plasma i giocatori e li fa diventare dei campioni del futuro.
E tutto va bene, abbiamo un grande allenatore, più di questo che vogliamo.
Disse al presidente Mataresi di portare solo le maglie perché i giocatori ce l'avevamo noi. Attualmente Zeman sta preparando un'altra nazionale e ce l'abbiamo a Foggia.
Foggia is a team that's different from its proprietor downwards. Since 1985, they've been owned by Pasquale Casillo, local grain millionaire, ex-friend of Giuseppe Ciarapico, and a target for the wrath of the local fans and the local mafia. Only last week, an explosion was triggered at these Casillo grain silos on the outskirts of town. It's the latest in a long campaign by the local mob, apparently to get a slice of the Foggia ticket sales. Not all damage to Casillo property, though, can be attributed to them. On the eve of the opening game of last season, for example, Foggia fans, disgruntled over the dismantling of the previous year's squad, broke into the stadium and went on the rampage, angrily calling for Casillo to leave. This season, though, the atmosphere between the two parties has calmed, partly because of the squad's successes, partly because Casillo started buying players again. The first big addition was Brian Roy, part of the growing Ajax Amsterdam invasion of Italy. The midfielder moved across from the Dutch champions in November last year, but found last season heavy going here in Italy.
Yeah, well, it's a great difference between Ajax and Foggia, of course. Ajax is a great team and a great organization, and you play with the best players of the world, so it was much more easy for me to play very good over there than over here.
This season's training camp saw 3 new additions: Argentinian defender Jose Chamot from Pisa, this summer's leading goalscorer in Italy, Massimiliano Capellini, a product of the Milan youth programme, and Gazza's ex-teammate, midfielder Giovanni Stroppa, a player curiously overlooked at Monza, Milan and Lazio, and now delighted at a fresh chance.
Finalmente era un sogno nel cassetto che avevo per giocare titolare, cosa che la Lazio purtroppo non avevo a tempo pieno.
As a measure of the club's new ambitions, Foggia have scrapped the prize usually offered for avoiding relegation. Now instead they offer £50,000 to each player if Foggia can win the Scudetto, or rather more realistically, £30,000 if the team can get a place in Europe. Certainly Foggia are off to a flying start. They're tied in 4th in Serie A, 4 points up on their position this time last year. Now what stands in their way, of course, is Juventus. Can Foggia repeat last season's triumph? The question clearly excites Coach Zeman.
Individualmente sono 1 contro 1, sono sicuramente più forti di noi. Da noi ci possiamo mettere carattere, più voglia, più aggressività, più lotta e più soffrire uno per l'altro. Loro durante il gioco sicuramente dipendono di più da un giocatore che ci può risolvere, che può inventare qualcosa di diverso rispetto agli altri.
Foggia's success so far has been based on teamwork, extraordinary fitness for the speed that Zeman demands both on and off the ball. It's a style of play truly not seen elsewhere in Serie A. How well Zeman's newfangled ways will fare against the traditional old Juve, we shall see. La Signora comes forewarned, of course, this time, but as ever, Foggia have nothing to lose. Now, our Sunday game has never featured this most modern of teams before, but rest assured that tomorrow the revolution will be televised. We'll have Foggia against Juventus live here on Channel 4 tomorrow afternoon. Be sure to join us here at the Zaccaria.